Okay, one response is from this is marriage part two. The ideal age to get married. From a male's perspective, I'm just reading off of a form, pretty much, to let you know what a man generally think the ideal age to get married is. And I'm pretty sure everybody has their different perspectives about the ideal age to get married, and I'm pretty sure women have their own separate perspective, of course. And I'll read a response to that question: the ideal age for man to settle down and get married with the right wife. Someone says this answer will vary from guy to guy from time to time, which is definitely true. He said, as I've gotten older, mid 20s now, I've settled on a 12 to 20-year plan that will see me able to settle down at anywhere from 35 to 45. I'm going to stick to that plan unless I am pleasantly surprised by a great potential lover or partner who shows up earlier than anticipated. In parentheses, he puts unlikely, but never say never. Parentheses closed. He says 5 years ago I would have told you I sought to settle down at 25, between 25 and 30 years old. And during the last 5 years, I have several passes at a couple of women I had hoped to do that settling with. I was unsuccessful, and in hindsight, that may have been the best outcome for me. Parentheses, depressing as the whole experience was, experience has a way of altering one's perspective on matters like these. That's an interesting response. So he's saying basically that he's setting up his plans to get married between the age of 35 and 45, and he thought it would be earlier between 25 and 30 before, and now he's changed his mind based on his experiences. Another response was, I'm 26 now, and I will want to be with a woman for at least 3 years beforehand, so I'd say early 30s sounds good, and marrying a girl about a decade younger. That was another guy's response. Interesting. Another response was, the factor that does increase from the age of 30 to 35 for men is the potential age gap with the girls. Even once you turn 45, you'll find some 20-year-olds who will sleep with you, but you won't pull at that age bracket in the U.S., in the United States, like you would at the age of 29. However, at 29, you can only marry a girl 11 years younger than you. Whereas at 45, you can marry a girl who will only be 33 when you are 60. Because of this, the later 30s might be optimal for marriage, but unlikely your sexual market value would be dramatically higher by then. So he's saying by he's saying your later 30s will be optimal for marriage for a man, but unlikely their sexual market value will be dramatically higher. But it's unlikely that their sexual market value will be dramatically higher by then. Dramatically higher, no, like whose sexual market value goes up dramatically higher? I mean, I would say a girl turning from 17 to 18-year-old, turning from the age of 17 to 18. That's the only time someone's sexual market value goes up higher within a short amount of time, because the women are just becoming illegal for the most part. So let me see if I have any more responses. Another interesting response is, someone said that imagine a 22-year-old Stanford law student. Sure, he hasn't made any money yet, but an 18-year-old girl would know that this guy is gonna be rich. He'll have no problem at all sleeping with girls in the 18 to 22-year-old bracket. As a 22-year-old Stanford law student. Now, somebody responded to that statement by saying, "You're giving these girls too much credit." He said, "Young, attractive, and even unattractive, for that matter, 18 to 22-year-old girls don't care where you go to school. They are not evaluating men on the basis of their long-term earning potential. They want finished products, not possibilities. Graduate campuses at schools like Harvard, Yale, and Duke are not being swarmed by hot young 18 to 22-year-olds looking to snag a husband, and students at the law, business, and med schools that are not drowning in pools." He says, he says schools. He says at Harvard, Yale, and Duke, women aren't being swarmed by hot young. Wait, he said graduate campuses at schools like Harvard, Yale, and Duke aren't being swarmed by hot young 18 to 22-year-olds looking to snag a husband, and students at the law and business and medical schools there are not drowning in pools of hot 18 to 20-year-old options. So he's saying, men at the Harvard, Yale, and Duke schools that are in law school, a master business program or med school, they're not drowning in pools of hot 18 to 20-year-old options for women. He says your degree is not going to drop panties. These girls are first and foremost looking for young guys who can turn them on, show them a good time, and impress their friends. These traits are not at all strongly correlated with earning potential. He says if you have good game, then your degree is a plus, but a guy in that age group with good game would be doing well with or without the Stanford degree. Parentheses, the kid at San Diego Law with the same game and all else being equal can get very similar results. So he's saying a guy with the same game, a guy that's not in law school or regular, maybe 9 to 5 guy, can get the same results as a guy that's in San Diego Law School if they have the same type of game and confidence and charisma and personality for the most part, and your earning potential is not really a factor. Interesting. That's what he's saying regarding attracting women in that age bracket between 18 and 22. And then he responds to another quote. The quote was that he responds to is, in the United States at least, the guy will have a much harder time with meeting 18 and 22-year-olds when he is 36 due to the age gap. And the response to that was, your typical Stanford law student is going to have a much wider range of attractive options at 36 than he will at 22. Unlike his 22-year-old self, he'll have the option of not only pursuing 18 to 22-year-olds with the benefit of resources he didn't have at 22, but also 22 to 30-year-olds, a range that includes a large number of very attractive women who are more likely to give a damn about his academic pedigree and income/future earning potential than your standard teenage co-ed type of female. And he says he will have more resources, making the pursuit of all women, including the 18 to 22-year-olds, substantially easier, more experience, and likely higher confidence levels, thanks to the extra 10 plus years of social and professional experience. At 36 as well, the odds are that he'll be better off in pretty much every way. Interesting. And then another response to that was, I agree, a 36-year-old will have more options due to improvement in game and income than a 22-year-old man. But this isn't what I was arguing. I argued that this slope of the increase, particularly from 30 to 35, is not at all symmetric to the collapse in a woman's value over the 25 to 30-year-old range. In fact, he's saying from 30 to 35, the same decline for women over that period. Forget that last sentence. Now, He also responds saying that in California, once I entered my mid 30s and started balding, age suddenly became an issue with some college girls, not though not all college girls, it wasn't an issue with. He says, and even in Russia, even in the country of Russia, where larger age gaps are common, I match with way more girls on Tinder in the 18 to 22-year-old bracket, saying I'm 29 years old, than when I was 35 years old. While this is just one observation, I did it on the recommendation of others, including a 38-year-old who says he's 28 on the OkCupid and Tinder apps, but said he couldn't match with too many 19-year-olds being 38. Again, I agree that a 36-year-old guy would have a higher sexual market value than a 30-year-old, but is it dramatically higher of the same proportion as the collapse of a woman who goes from 25 to 30? Question mark. So yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. Let me see if I got any more interesting quotes regarding the ideal age to get married from this forum. Maybe I could pull it up real quick. Someone says I'm gonna contradict some of the mainstream views and say you are actually better off marrying a woman in her mid to late 20s than her early 20s. Women in their early 20s still more or less have teenage mentalities and are much more likely to fall in and out of love very quickly. A woman in her mid 20s who has not slutted around too much seems ideal to me. But one thing, she is likely a lot more mature. Also, if she has been with less than 5 or 6 guys in her mid 20s, that is pretty good proof she is not a um that she is not a slut and can resist sexual opportunities as they arise. And let me see if I got. So yeah, that's pretty much. Another response with somebody says, I think in a healthy society you would have guys age 25 to 28 marrying girls age 17 to 20 or something like that. He says in a healthy society. Or do we live in a healthy society? I don't know. Our economy doesn't seem too healthy for the most part. I don't know. And another interesting one was, I'll end on this one. This response to the question, the ideal age to get married. He says, I think it depends on which country you're in. In France, for example, you have different kind of wedding contracts. Wedding contracts, interesting subject in itself. Wedding contracts. It means you can divide all your belongings with your wife, or you can divide what you earn only after the date of marriage, or you can simply divide nothing. The only problem regarding money is about children. If the mother got the children after the divorce, you have to pay some money according to your salary each month. And there's one big benefit, at least in France. When you are married, taxes on your revenue are lower than being single or living with someone without being married. Also, you receive more money from the government for children, etc. In the end, I think it really depends on each country. He says it's difficult to generalize that question. But yeah, I'ma holla at you. Yeah, that's about it regarding the ideal ages to get married, part two, and more to come. There's another one by Match.com that I wanted to review on what Match.com thought. I never really been on the site, but I saw there they put out an article about the ideal age to get married, and pretty much Match.com seems like the pioneer of all the online, dating sites. So I'm gonna do a review on that article next, but I'm gonna holla at y'all, deuces.